Thank you very much. There's been so many interesting ideas and experiments that we've heard about today. What I'm going to tell you about is a bit of a social experiment. This social experiment is as old as I am. Oh, I'm not the experiment, though. But it started up in 1963. The movement is called the United World Colleges, and we are lucky to have one of them in Flekke in Sogn og Fjordane. And we aspire to make education a force to unite people for peace. Peace. We all have an idea of what peace is. In some ways, peace can be seen as an absence of war, conflict, or fear. Or we can see it what is as a presence of joy, fulfillment, togetherness. And education for peace is always a long-term investment. In some ways, it's the opposite of emergency aid. It's nurture over time for building for the future. So our task is to sensitize the young people that we have towards the responsibility that they attain as they gain knowledge and power. So to whom much is given, much is expected. This is from our school at graduation, but today I find myself at the school where my son has just started. And now we come to the real reason why I'm here, because he thought he could get away. But no way. Because that's something I've learned just in these few weeks that he's been away, that the problem with sons is you never hear from them again once they've left. I've seen a few people nodding here. But I have caught up with my son on the mobile a few times, and he's been very happy. So what have you done? I asked him after the first week. Well, he hadn't opened a single book. He hadn't lifted a finger, but there had been a lot of partying going on. But he was very content, and I was quite... I believed in him, because he'd learned something important. By being here for 1 week and partying, he'd learned that he was special. And I think that is some form of value. He had created huge expectations of what he would get, and we also felt sure that he would meet both respect and passion for the specific knowledge that he would get here. This is from our graduation. Our students are a bit younger than they are pre-university. And here you see a Swedish girl having been visited with her family as she's ready. And I think what we see here is an element of celebration in education. I know that it's important to quote your sources, but here I don't remember my sources on this one, so pardon me. But I think there are 3 very important elements in all education. And that is, celebration is one of them. Thinking back on my own education, I think we went through it without any form of celebration. Of course, hard work is important, and then also that there is play. I think that goes for any form of education, whether it's for peace or not. Education is not only of the head. We are educating the whole person. So the head as much as the body, your reason and your emotion. It's about knowledge, but it's also about your attitude. It's about what goes on inside of the classroom and outside of it. In my classroom, I deal with literature. And also in literature, I think we deal about stories of the whole person. In every society, they tell stories in order to tell what it means to be a human being. These are the great stories. In societies where religion plays a big role, then you have religious stories about this. But as you're losing your religion, you need new types of stories to tell you who you are or what it means to be a human being on this ground, under this sky, and between these people. And in Europe, what really took on this role of the great story is something that you in German call a Bildungsroman. And one of the great ones you'll see here. And they all follow the same pattern. in that the hero goes from home, homeless, to home. There is a harmony at first, then there is a conflict, and the harmony regained. So the hero, on his way, he acquires knowledge and maturity. He comes to know his darker side, that's important, and he comes to turn with them, and he makes them a part of himself. He's also able to negotiate what the society has to offer for him and his own needs. And if there's a problem with one of them, one will have to change. Maybe someone who actually comes to change his society. Now, this is all very good, but what's a bit worrying is that that's my claim, that since 1850 there is not a single credible work like this written in serious history, in serious literature. Does this mean that we don't have these kind of stories anymore at all? Oh yes, it's very productive. Think about this guy. Disney, that's the whole method that they're using, Lion King. I guess many of you have seen Lion King, and Lion King is basically Hamlet, put him into the jungle, and use the happy ending of the Bildungsroman, and then you have Lion King. And I think this Disney, they are good examples of stories of identity, that in some ways I think we need those stories. If they're truthful or not, I think there is something basic in the stories of identity. I don't teach this, but well, first of all, I want to talk a bit about, we learn throughout our lives. Some of it happens at school, something outside of it. I have two good friends. One is an obsessive reader. The other one never opens a book. He's into football and climbing, and he sent his children to these kind of talent competitions even before they became popular. But my other friend wanted to make him start reading. So he gave him this book, which you see here, Birdsong. It's a story of atrocities from World War I. So read this book over the summer and then we'll meet again. So he read it, go through it, and he said, "So Richard, what did you think about this book?" "Oh, it really made me think. It really made me think." I thought, fucking hell. And the reason why I tell you this story is that I have a bit of the same experience with this other book. This is also, it's from World War II, Primo Levi. It's a story really about atrocities. And I thought that this book told something really important. This has happened, never again. And I saw that the book had the same effect on my students. They're very bright, receptive students. It really made an impact for them. The problem was that what happened in the class beyond his response. So for you, this book, if this is a man, I recommend it for all of you to read. If you go into teaching, I don't recommend it for anyone to teach. Unless you can find that method that I couldn't have, that you need to have something that goes together with that empathy. Something about inquisition and the way you create a true dialogue to make questions. This is a book I've loved to have in the classroom. To the right there, you see Dresden during World War II. To the left, you see the author Kurt Vonnegut. He's looking back. He's looking back at something that took him an experience. It took him 23 years to turn this into literature. The novel is called Slaughterhouse-Five. The whole first chapter dwells on the problems of how can you make an experience that is beyond comprehension, how can you make that understandable in some ways? So I'm going to read a bit from it. "It's so short and jumbled and jangled, Sam, because there's nothing intelligent to say about a massacre. Everybody's supposed to be dead, to never say anything or want anything ever again. Everything is supposed to be very quiet after a massacre, and it always is, except for the birds. And what do the birds say? All there is to say about a massacre. Things like, poo to eat. Vonnegut compares his own position with Lot's wife in the Old Testament. The woman who looked back at the destructed cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Again, I quote from the book. There were vile people in both those cities, as is well known. The world is better without them. And Lot's wife, of course, was told not to look back where all those people and their homes had been. But she did look back, and I love her for that, because it was so human. She was turned into a pillar of salt. So it goes. People aren't supposed to look back. I'm certainly not going to do it anymore. I've finished my war book now. The next one I write is going to be fun. This one is a failure, and has to be, since it was written by a pillar of salt. It begins like this: listen, Billy Pilgrim has come unstuck in time. It ends like this: potty wheat. This is a book I've loved to have in the classroom, and sometimes I felt it made me as a teacher redundant. I can just throw it out to my students and they would keep going. And I think one of the things it really did was that it was both about content and form, that it really, the book itself was an invitation for the students to engage themselves and to really dwell both on the experience and how you actually can make sense of it. I'll move on to, so this is from the classroom experience. I think also at the school, so what we do in the classroom I think is important, but also what we do outside of it is crucial. Here we see from a role play that is available for everyone who's interested. It's made by the Red Cross. It's called On the Run. So in this, it takes 24 hours. The participants will have the role of a refugee. So by wearing their shoes and having some of their experience, they'll get a glimpse of what it's like to be a refugee. And from this start comes a curiosity and an interest to learn more, both about their situation and about political problems. Similarly, this is Model United Nations. This is another role play made by the United Nations. Actually, it was made here in Bergen. It's available for anyone who wants to do it. Here you become a delegate for your country, and over 3 days you work on a resolution. You get a glimpse of the complexities of these issues and also the procedures that go with them. This, again, it's a really good starter for knowledge. Again, this is my school, and you see some of the students there. They are from some 80 different countries, and the age is pre-university. Today there are 13 schools like this around the world. Here you only see 12. Sorry, the picture is old. So Maastricht has come as the last one since this picture. It all was set up during the Cold War, and I think that is important as a background. The Iron Curtain. The founder, Kurt Hahn, had one very simple question, and that is, how can there be peace if we do not know each other? So his idea was as simple as that: bring people together from either sides of divisions. The division between East and West today has a new meaning, even though I think it still has as much relevant. And the division between North and South, we are all painfully aware of. The divisions between those who have too much and those who have too little. And I've seen that actually by bringing these together, I think the benefit from it is as big for those who actually have had in abundance before. By being together with people from a very different situation, they're really sensitized to many issues. Now, since we started as a movement, all the societies have become increasingly more multicultural. And I think this situation is a huge resource for learning. At the same time, we read in the media that not everyone sees this as a resource. I know in Bergen today, in Oslo, we've heard many stories about parents who want to move their children away from their school and move them into a school where they can be of people of the same kind. Often these will be people from the majority population who suddenly find themselves to be a minority in the school where they are. And I can understand if that is seen as a problem, but still I think there is something about the focus here. So I think for a diverse setting to become a resource, people must want to come together across these barriers. I think that the task is as simple and as difficult as that. It takes some resources. Here you see a group of people who are where they choose to be, on neutral grounds. So this is in the mountains of Nordfjord. The teacher here, he's from South Africa. I really admire him for the way he's adapted to a Norwegian setting. He'd never skied before, but now he runs these snow cave trips every single year. And he's together with students from Africa, Asia, and also from Norway. This is a kind of setting that removes social barriers. Any one of you who've been to a snow cave and spent a few days there know that the kind of things you talk about is different from otherwise. Normally I think our talk is a bit kind of middle of the road here. But when you're in a snow cave, you either talk about things here or really down there. Things that I want to talk about here, but those are... And I think this brings you closer together. I think it also brings you together in the way that you can be of help for someone else with simple things like, do you want to try my dry sock? Or things like that, which really I think is a very important educational experience. With Arne Osland's word, who's been to see us a few times, this is simple in means, but rich in ends. You come out of your comfort zone, and you experience that there is more in you than you think. You are needed. I think we all respond to being needed. And face-to-face is the best way to do this. On this picture, you see two of our students who work on a weekly duty for the local center for refugees in Førde. And similarly, they have tasked to work for... We have our own camp school at the school where people from the West Coast, young Norwegians come, and we use them as instructors at the school. Not because they are cheap labor, but we believe that in what happens between them. It's beneficial for the students, and it's also, we had the feedback from one of the visiting teachers from Ålesund who said that coming here really was a vaccination against racism. I have a good colleague from Ghana. He's called Daniel. Sometimes we have discussions. He thinks that leadership is the solution to world problems. So our task is to educate future leaders of the world. I have slight hesitation to it. Maybe it's the social democrat or the Scandinavian in me, but I'm not quite sure if the solution is only leadership. But I like when Daniel says that he brings this notion of the servant leader, that the task for the leader is not to serve for his own good, but to serve for the common good. And I think that the solution lies here between educating good leaders with the spirit of service, and also if you can have good team players. I'm also very proud to put up my local team who's overachieving for the first time in history, so that's something else I wanted to say here. Back to what the students should do when they come to us. I think they are in a transformative stage where they learn to be independent, but at the same time they need to learn that we are all interdependent. Our school is a residential school. We have 5 persons who share 30 square meters to live in. And I think most of the important learning is happening actually in that room, which is purposely diverse. They have to handle conflicts in their daily lives. They have to learn conflict resolution as a tool, which is a form of negotiation. And beyond that, they love to be part of discussions. They love to debate. But I think more important than debate is a true ability to engage in dialogue, to give and take, and to come to know the other, and by that, themselves. And in this way, I would like to round this up with reading a little poem, and it's called Mother Root. Creation often needs two hearts, one to root and one to flower, one to sustain in times of drought and hold fast against winds of pain, the fragile bloom that in the glory of its hour affirms a heart unsung, unseen. Thank you very much.